Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Don Odells Legends. My name is Art Tipaldi. I'm the editor of the very new and exciting music magazine called Blues Music Magazine. You can check us out at bluesmusicmagazine.com. And tonight we're here with just another vine in that long rope, if you will, of Texas blues guitar players. Chris Duarte. Chris is a returnee here to Don's Legends, and welcome back, Chris.
It's good to be back, Art. Thanks for being here.
Good. So you want to talk a little bit about this Texas guitar? You're from Texas.
Right.
You still living there?
No, I don't live there. I've been living in Atlanta, Georgia since late 2005.
Okay, but you grew up in Texas.
I mean, Texas is still in me. I'm still proud to be from Texas.
Yeah.
My great-great-great-grandfather fought in the Battle of San Jacinto. And I say it's San Jacinto, but San Jacinto, I guess.
Okay.
John Files Tom. Look it up, people.
Yeah.
But
what is it about the Texas guitar? Can you explain that style of blues guitar to our
I think
listeners?
the main thing about the Texas guitar is its tone. It's got to be tone, big fat tone, really cool rhythm. And then there's a certain Texas shuffle that goes along with it.
Yeah.
And I think the T-Birds do it Jimmy Vaughn is a perfect example of a modern sort of Texas blues guy that draws from the old kind of cats.
Right.
And Stevie, of course, another example. And then also we have, T-Bone Walker.
Right.
And lots of cats, but there's this particular type of shuffle. They call it the double shuffle.
Right.
Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. That's a real Texas thing.
That's right.
And I mean, a lot of cats really can't play that style. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Some drummers can do it, but some drummers can't. But it's all to its own is the Texas style.
Yeah.
And like I said before, tone is king, though.
Yeah.
Definitely. And Freddie King, too. There's
Freddie King,
great.
Some of the great guitar players who've come out of Texas, you've named two, T-Bone Walker, Freddie King. Who are some of the others that you can think? Lightning Hopkins.
I think Albert King.
Yeah,
Albert King.
He was
came
Houston.
out there. Yeah. And Albert Collins.
Right.
I mean,
no, I'm sorry, not Albert King. I thought you were saying Albert Collins.
Well, Albert Collins.
Yeah, for sure.
Albert Collins.
Albert King was Memphis.
Okay, there we go, Memphis.
Yeah,
well, then that's my fault. Sorry, people.
Yeah, that's all right.
But Albert Collins, I mean, the master of the Telecaster.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm proud to say that I opened up for him a long time ago when he was still really kicking back, and probably back in the early '80s.
No kidding.
Yeah. It's funny because you hear the albums and you wonder, can a guitar really sound like that?
Yeah.
And sure enough, when he gets up there, kabang.
Yeah.
He's stinging those notes. So it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Albert Collins, and that was a long time ago when I played Antones.
Yeah. What is a guitar player like, who loves the blues as you do, grew up hearing it, when you open for an Albert Collins, what does that do to your journey?
It's actually, looking back on it, has meant more to me. Because at the time, I was just young. I think I was maybe 19, maybe 20 years old, and I don't think I realized the impact of it. I knew who Albert Collins was.
Yeah.
I knew he was a great player,
Right.
but for some reason it didn't impact me.
Yeah.
It was like Hubert Sumlin moved to Austin too in the early 80s,
Okay.
and he hung around for like a half year or a year, and he'd come down to Antone's and play with us. I was playing every Wednesday at the Bobby McKnight Train, and he'd come and sit in with us on songs, and even when we were playing Wolf songs, I never realized the magnanimity of it, the enormity of what was going on here to me. And now that I look back on it, I really am reverent for those memories that I have, especially for Hubert, just such a great guy.
That's right, sure. What drew you to the electric guitar?
I'd have to say it really was like Black Sabbath and stuff. 'Cause me coming from San Antonio, it was a metal town, so Black Sabbath. And then right before I left, I was like starting to get into the jazz fusion guys when I was about my late 15, 16 years old. Yeah. But then when I got my first band, which was blues, that's when I started getting to the Muddy Waters and the Wolf and Freddie King. And
right. As a guitar player, how many different styles do you have to become conversant in? Everybody goes, blues, it's such simple music, but we've named 6, 8, 10 guitar players.
Yeah, and they all have different styles, they all have different approaches to it. I mean, there's no doubt the phrasing, that's a personal thing, and I think it's always what artists are looking for, their own type of phrasing, their own voice. But definitely there's different approaches to the instruments, and I think that you just have to be a good student of all these people and try to find some sort of middle ground or some area where you can invent your own island where you pull from different influences from all these guys.
Yeah.
And somehow, instead of making it sound like you're just imitating them, make it sound like it's your own sort of interpretation of it.
Yeah. When did that come to you? When you felt like...
You know, I think it came to me, I think probably when I started playing in the blues bands and I wanted to sound like these guys. But then I wanted to still retain all my old jazz influences and still paint with these different colors.
Yeah.
And I think that probably came in my late teens.
Right.
Is
Wow.
when I did.
That's pretty cool.
And so
then it's
still,
a growth after that.
Yeah, I'll be working on it the rest of my life, basically.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. But, back to what I said, I would imagine a young kid really has to learn, you've got to learn a shuffle. You've got to learn Albert Collins style of blues. You've got to learn B.B. King style of blues, so that when you are in a jam situation and somebody calls off something, you can't be lost up there.
Right, you can just, how to blend right in with it. And then that comes with, there's even more intricacies than that. There's having to work with the drummer, because I'm constantly listening to what the drummer's doing, having to see what the bass player's doing. Then if there's a keyboard player, you have to learn how to stay out of his way as well.
Right.
Add to the music instead of making it just a cacophony of sounds. Right.
I had this question I was going to ask later, but of course you're in a trio format. How much listening are you doing when you're playing?
That's all I'm doing is listening.
Listening to them?
I'm listening to them. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
Listening to them, and that I'm reacting with them. We're having a conversation is what it is. We're all having a conversation, and I'm reacting off the drummer, and I'm reacting with the bass player.
So even though, those of us who don't play music, we're watching Stevie, we're watching Jimmy up in front, fronting a three-man group, there's a lot that they're saying that's affecting you. They're just not the floor.
Oh, definitely. I mean, unless it's a show that's built out and you're doing the same thing over and over, pretty much telling the same story, that's cool. Everybody sort of hits it. But when you start going off in a different tangent, that's when you open up your ears and you start listening to what everybody's playing.
Yeah. Does that come from your jazz background, or you?
I think it helps.
It helps.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it adds to it, and I think it helps with that. And then all of us, the musicians I have with me today, we've all got sort of a little bit of our toes in the water with jazz.
Yeah. And that, of course, is the improvisational conversation, which happens in good blues also.
Which it should be.
Yeah. I just mentioned Jimmy. Let's move out of Texas for a minute. Was Jimi Hendrix somebody?
A huge hero, influence? Man. Every time I listen to Jimmy, it's like I can't help but try to sound like him when I go play that night, because it's just... the emotion, the sheer raw emotion that Jimmy had was just amazing. Yeah. In fact, I know I'm getting a lot of cats that are older that I'm playing with, and they're older, and they're saying, "Oh, we should turn down." But I don't know. I still like turning the air electric. That's what a big Marshall amp does. It turns it electric and makes it very emotional.
Right.
And I still like doing it. Yeah, my hearing might suffer for it, but it sure is good for the soul.
Yeah. When I said why electric guitar, sometimes people say, I just like the power of what it feels like. I can feel the emotion that's coming through me,
there's nothing like it when the air is electric and what a Marshall or a big tone does. It's pretty amazing.
What does a Jimi Hendrix teach you about the blues?
Jimmy is just reckless abandonment, but definitely keeping an ear to the traditional sense too, because he's just got this incredible technique, but he has this amazing imagination that he brings with the rock and the blues style. It's just this wild side of him. Yeah. And that's when I'm playing a blues, a simple 12-bar blues or slow blues, and I'm trying to sound like Jimmy, it's going to be pretty wild sounding, because Jimmy was... most of the time he was kind of wild. Right. And doing his sonic stuff with feedback and all that. I mean, he did a lot of that stuff in Red House and some of the slow blues, Born on a Bad Sign. I mean, gosh. Right. And that's all it is, bringing in the modern influences. Yeah. Music has to evolve. I've said that over and over again, but it has to evolve.
Yeah. I sometimes wonder as I listen to so many bands who are simply recreating what was already done. And I'm thinking, well, where is the evolution in this? This band there has to be some movement forward for this, other than just covering the same era of music, and
You know,
it's exciting when somebody comes along. Gary Clark Jr. He seems like,
oh, Gary's great, man. Gary is great. He's got that great voice. He's got that great timing.
Yeah.
Yet he has that nod towards the old cats.
That's right, yeah.
But he's putting a new spin on some stuff. And those are the cats that are going to prove themselves to move forward
That's
and
right.
moving music forward.
That's right, sure.